In a recent video, I talked about how to achieve British Airways Gold status for under £3,000, and one of the techniques I talked about in that video was taking a back-to-back flight. So today I'm going to go into more detail on what a back-to-back flight is. I'll show you how you can book them with practical examples, and you'll see why these are so perfect for getting those last few tier points on a status chase. I'll also talk about nesting back-to-back flights so you can get the very best prices, and there are some warnings though, so step away from the keyboard, don't start booking until you've heard those. Hi, I'm Phil and I'm on a grey gap year. I'm making some assumptions in this video. I'm assuming you know the basics about earning status in the executive club and that you understand the concept of a tier point run. And if you haven't, I've got a playlist that you can watch and I'll leave a link to that in the description. So what is a back-to-back? Well, simply put, it's two flights that you can take on the same day in and out of the same airport. So if you can fly from Heathrow to Paris in the morning and then fly back to Heathrow from Paris in the afternoon or evening, then that is going to be a back-to-back. So why would you want to do this? Or to put it another way, if you're going to go to the trouble and the expense to fly somewhere like Amsterdam or Sofia, then why not have a few days there and make a holiday of it? Well, there's usually two reasons for this, and they're time and money. A shortage of annual leave might mean you don't have any spare days to spend at your destination, or simply a shortage of funds to pay for the hotels and meals for an extended trip. So a back-to-back is often a top-up to complete a status level. You might need, say, 60 tier points to reach silver. Your anniversary date is coming up, which is when your tier points are going to reset back to zero. But another reason to do this is just the challenge of it. Trying to get across Schiphol Airport to make your return flight, to me, it's all a little bit geeky, but it's also a bit exciting. So let's dive right in. So I'm in Google Flights and I'm looking for flights and prices that have availability for 0-day trips. And I'm starting with London to Glasgow. And a week ago in the other video, I was finding these for about £190 round trip in business. Now this trip will earn me 40 tier points each way, so 80 tier points for the round trip. And if my budget or target is to pay only £2 per tier point, then my budget for this flight is £160. But these 0 night trips today are coming in at around £210, £220 most months, and I presume that BA is pricing these flights for business travellers who are, less price sensitive. So these 0-day fares are costing us about £2.63 per tier point, which is above the target price. However, if you need a few tier points to meet your target and you're at the end of your membership year, then this is going to be well worth it. But can we find any flights that meet the £160 round trip price or £2 per tier point? Well, a UK back-to-back doesn't have to be London to Glasgow, so we can also look at Manchester, Edinburgh, Inverness and Belfast. And if you're booking a 0-day back-to-back, you can start somewhere else outside of London and they'll often come in at a lower price. We can often get a lower fare if there's a day or two or more between the flights, but that doesn't help us from a time or money point of view because we'd have to spend time in Glasgow, and it doesn't help us overall from the cost point of view because we're also going to be spending money on hotels and spending money on meals. But we can nest two flights together to give us two back-to-back flights on 2 different days, and I'll explain that concept now. So as an example, we could book a round trip from London to Glasgow and then another round trip from Glasgow to London for the same dates. And the London to Glasgow flights will both be in the morning and the Glasgow to London flights will both be in the afternoon. So the flights would be like this. Flight 1 is on ticket 1, which is to say on Saturday morning, and then flight 2 is going to be on ticket 2, which is then a Saturday evening. Now flight 3 will also be on ticket 2. This is the return portion of the ticket back to London in the morning. And then finally flight 4 is going to be the return on ticket 1 from Glasgow to London. So how are we going to find and book these? Well, I use Google Flights and then I just look for common dates with cheaper return flights in the time frame that I'm working in. And you'll need to play about with these dates a little bit to find them. So in our year end on the 8th of April scenario, then I'm looking for dates between now and the 8th of April that seem cheaper from both London to Glasgow and Glasgow to London. And once I've found them, I'm going to sort them by price and I'm going to take a screenshot. So now I'm just going to pick the cheapest flight available just so I can progress to the return options, and then I'm going to take a screenshot of the return flights. Then I'm going to repeat this process with the other flight I'm planning to book, the reverse flight. So I've got 4 ticketing screenshots in a Word document, and on my screen that's all sort of side to side, so now I can see the wood for the trees and I can start planning some trips. Now, I don't want to wait too long in my destination airport, but I also don't want to leave things too tight either. I need to be able to get off the plane I'm on and then get to the gate that I'm returning on. There are lots of Glasgow to Heathrow flights every day, and the aircraft I fly in on is not necessarily going to be the aircraft that I fly back on. So this brings me to a few warnings. Old Grandpa Brasso's warning section. And the immediate warning is that we're gaming the system here. We're booking separate tickets to beat the inbuilt BA pricing. And as such, BA have no responsibility to us if we're unable to fly into Heathrow in time to check into our return flight on the second ticket. And like any other ticket, if you fail to show up, check in, get to the gate on time, then your ticket and the entire itinerary is going to get cancelled. You can expect no sympathy if you go crying to British Airways for a refund because your attempt to save a few quid went horribly wrong. You'll just get eye rolls from BA. And don't come crying to me either. You took the risk, so all I'm ever going to give you is hardy derision. So there's going to be a risk. There's risks of bad weather, cancellations, delays, things like that. And we need to plan for things that can go wrong. But with British Airways, the good news is that this kind of ticketing is within the rules. Now, I read all the rules and I can't find anything within them that prohibits this. I'll leave a link in the description. I also, just to double check, I made a call to the booking centre and they confirmed that although this is very close to line, we're not crossing over it. They also warned me of all the things that could go wrong in the same way that I've warned you. But although British Airways doesn't prohibit this practice, some airlines have it clearly in their terms and conditions that this is not allowed. So always check before you book. And I'll give you a quick example. In United Airlines Terms of Carriage, Rule 6, Tickets, Section J, Prohibited Practices, Item 3 states, the use of flight coupons from 2 or more different tickets issued at round-trip fares for the purpose of circumventing applicable tariff rules such as advance purchase, minimum stay requirements, commonly referred to as back-to-back ticketing, is prohibited by United Airlines. And a couple of other very quick things that some of you will have already realised. And that is, if you add in connections, for example, Manchester to Sofia via Heathrow on a back-to-back, we are increasing the danger. There's just so many moving parts there, so many things that can go wrong. You really are just begging the gods of travel to rain down their fury on you. And the other thing is no checked baggage. If you're flying in economy for BA sectors, then I would go as far as to say you want your bag to fit in the seat underneath you. You do not want your hand baggage getting checked into the hold. How long you need to leave between flights will depend on the airport you're flying to and the route that you're flying. On some routes, you'll generally expect to fly your return leg on the same aircraft that you flew in on. So the London to Glasgow route we've been talking about is an example where you probably won't do that, but London to Sofia is an example of a flight where you probably will. So if you're nesting flights and you're delayed and you're flying back on the same equipment, you should be okay. I'll leave a link to the Flyer Talk thread that lists the airport that BA flies to and what they're like for back-to-back and tier point runs. Because even if you're returning on the equipment you went out on, you might have to get bused to the airport terminal, then you might have to make your way from arrivals to your departure gate, which could require going through immigration and security. Now, there's any number of issues you might face, and this forum will help you understand how long you need to leave it if you get a choice at all. So read the forum, check your target airport, build in some time for problems, and always have a plan B in case things go wrong. So in my example earlier, I wasn't able to find flights in March that gave us £2 per tier point or were under £160. But this is just an arbitrary figure that I've plucked out of the air. And if this offers value for you, if you get value out of this, for example, I don't know, you're about to go silver, then it is well worth it. Now, there are other routes that you can try. Sofia and Bulgaria comes up a lot. It's often cheap in the winter months, but BA really don't like it when you book back-to-back flights to places like Sofia, and they make it as difficult as possible for you to book. A zero-night fare, if it's available, will always have a price lift. Traditionally, another good back-to-back has often been London-Amsterdam, and also, although this goes against those connection rules that I talked about, from Jersey via London to Amsterdam, and this used to be a tier point run that a lot of people would talk about on Flyer Talk flyer talk, but the pricing for these is now more than £2 per tier point, so not so good. And I have come across a sort of oddball route that I probably wouldn't want to do on a back-to-back. I think I'd need a night between flights, and that's Manchester to Glasgow via London Heathrow, and this would earn you 160 tier points as a round trip. From an excitement point of view, you'd have a transfer through Heathrow, and that's always fun. Now, I haven't dug into this too much, so I'll leave that one for you to look into and see if it's going to work for you, but it's an interesting idea. So I hope you've got a better understanding of back-to-back flights, and although I didn't find too many trips that were under my target price, the prices do change all the time, and it's just a case of keeping your eyes peeled for dates and prices that work for you. And if you'd like to learn about the other side of the British Airways scheme, which is their loyalty currency called Avios, then these two videos here, they'll tell you all the things you need to know about collecting and spending Avios. So thank you for watching and joining me on My Grey Gap Year.